welcome back to another episode of the Nothing But Bricks podcast. Before this episode starts, I do have a few things that I want to mention. First off, my brother, who I mentioned a few times throughout different podcasts about random things, has made an Instagram where he's going to post Lego Purist custom figures. So check that out. Link will be in the description. Pretty cool stuff on there already if you want to give him a follow there. But also for going forward with the podcast, I think I'm definitely going to have to upload the podcast less frequently than I was doing. So I'd probably have to do it either every second week or every third week, depending on how busy I am with school when that starts back up. But also it kind of got in the way of me making stop motion videos because I was so busy constantly trying to get a guest in time and editing and like promoting it, and that I never actually got to think about like, oh, I want to do this animation video, or I want to do this animation video, or things like that. So I do think that going forward I won't be uploading the podcast as frequently. So I apologize if there are people who are disappointed by that, but that is just so that I can keep making things outside of the podcast. I think that it'll be very beneficial. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, apart from that LOTW Studios, his YouTube channel will be linked in the description. So definitely go check out his channel because he's releasing Appman episode 6 very soon, which I'm personally looking forward to because I'm a big fan of the Appman series. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I hope you enjoy this week's episode of the Nothing But Bricks podcast. Welcome to episode 12 of the Nothing But Bricks podcast. Today I'm joined by LOTW Studios. Welcome to the show.
Hey, yeah, great. How are you? You alright?
Yeah, good. So to start off, I guess we could talk about your Brawl entry that you put out on YouTube.
Yeah. So I forgot what it's called now. Actually, oh yeah, it's Loop TV. Yeah, um, yeah. I really enjoyed making that. It was quite different to like my previous Brawl entries because in the past I'd been doing like sort of, I guess almost like music videos. They're kind of like all visual, like no kind of like dialogue and everything. And I wanted to kind of do something a bit different this year for Brawl. So I just kind of came up with this idea of, well, yeah, it being kind of like, TV based. And yeah, it was quite fun. I think it was like, I feel like it's my best like film in terms of like the animation for like the dialogue. I went for a much more cartoony style, which I think kind of matched with the tone quite well. And also, I think the voice actors as well that I managed to get, like Mind Game and stuff, like they were like added so much to it as well. Um, yeah, in general, I had a really fun time kind of making that film.
Cool. Yeah, it was really cool to see mind game and stuff in it because like you don't really see much from them except for when they were on like different brick filmers even. I think I was actually listening to the ALP podcast last night that you were on because
Yeah.
yeah and I
So
think
funny because this is like my second. This is the second podcast in 3 days that I've been in.
cool. But I think it was just Zach Pat that was saying that you don't really, or I don't know if it was you or just like Pat, but you're saying that not many, you don't get to see much about, or you don't really hear much about brick filmers, like their personal stuff that they have going on. It's just kind of like you see their brick films and that's kind of it. So yeah, I think it's really cool to see that they're uh, branching out into other people's brick films and making it more of a community type thing than just like videos.
Yeah, I think that's kind of important because it's kind of like, um, you it's you don't want it just being like making your own brick films and that's it. Because I mean, it's very easy to be like that, but like, I think it's really nice to kind of embrace the kind of like community aspect of the brick filming community, and I think a lot of that is the stuff outside of just your own brick films. It's it's well, partly it's like that. It's the getting to voice in other people's films, and also as well, like I guess like doing podcasts like this. I mean, I feel like it's really nice to have like or just to hear like different brick filmers perspectives, and you know um have some sort of content that's not just the brick films.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that yeah, that's why I started this podcast as well, just to see what people in the brick filming scene are like, in person, kind of to just get to talk to different people and get to know them better than their style of brick films or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny really because like when I started my podcast, I think I actually said this with just Pat Sack, but it's like at the time I kind of felt like there weren't a lot of like podcasts that were kind of like that I knew of anyway that were kind of like active at the time, and it's really nice actually. Like since I started, there's been quite a few more like different podcasts for brick filming, and I think the more the better. Really, I think it's great like having all these sort of podcasts to listen to, and also I think as well it's nice to hear like I guess brick filmers whilst you're brick filming. Like I think that's always quite cool.
Yeah, it's like a motivator in the way to keep going with the brick filming as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like as well, like from my perspective of like um doing the well brick films podcast, I kind of feel like I've learned so much from the different animators, like just hearing them talk, and sort of perspectives on like films in general and stuff that I didn't necessarily have when like beforehand. So you do get kind of like, yeah, I think it's quite a, I guess, sort of enriching kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but going on to another topic. Could you tell me a bit about the episode 6 of Appman that you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really hoping that actually within the next couple of weeks I'll be able to actually release it. But yeah, it's quite funny, really. Like it's I've been sort of making this since like early 2018, and one of the really funny things about it is that like some of the scenes are like filmed sort of like in 2018, and then like scenes that follow it are like shot like a few months ago. It's quite funny, sort of knowing that. But yeah, so it kind of, I guess, yeah, the episode 6 it kind of continues on from like directly from episode 5. Because in the previous episodes we get this hint that these henchmen are kind of watching them, and it kind of follows directly from the end of episode 5. Um, and well, Mind Game is actually the villain as well, which is really fun. And yeah, I feel like I'm really happy with like the finished film overall, like what I've got so far. I feel like it's probably the most like action packed episode of Batman so far. And in general, I really like it. I think it's really nice as well having like everything come together, because for so long it's been kind of like a few scenes without like it kind of having the pieces to kind of put it all together. But actually the pandemic has been like a big motivator for me to like actually get it finished. And had things not like ended up the way they did, I probably wouldn't actually have managed to finish it this year. So I guess that's kind of one positive out of like a massive negative out of this year. But um yeah, I just in general, it's really nice to finally have like, you know, have it almost complete. And I'm looking forward to actually getting to release it as well.
Nice. Yeah, looking forward to it myself as well. But when you're saying about recording it in 2018 and then also like shooting bits now as well, does it feel like looking back at like a video that you made a few years ago, or does it feel like this still that you're still like working on the same thing?
Well, it is funny because I kind of think back to like all the films that I've done like in between. So I'll see a scene that I did like, you know, in 2018, and then like directly following that, it's like a couple months ago, and I kind of think back to like, in between all this time, the amount of stuff that I've made, and it is quite funny. Like, um, I actually made. I don't know if you've seen Bosca's Opus, bought by Branchy from 2018, but like the majority of that is set in this restaurant, and there's a scene in episode 6 that's in a restaurant that's a lot like it, and basically I had just finished filming that scene when Brawl 2018 happened, and I kind of it's almost the same set, but I kind of just sort of like changed the color, like the color palette of the room. um so that kind of thing is always quite funny to me. It kind of feels like, and in a lot of ways it does feel like it's a completely different film. And also as well, I feel like I can kind of see it personally. Like there is quite a different like animation style and sort of like, I guess, quality. Like I feel like I've learned a lot in the last 2 years. Um, but overall, I feel like it kind of does flow really well as like as a single film. But yeah,
Yeah, that should be really interesting to see like the difference in animation style, like you were saying. Yeah, looking forward to it anyway when it comes out.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it should be released like I said, like within the next couple of weeks, so early October.
Cool. Um, yeah. So, what got you into brick filming? Like, yeah.
um, well, I'm trying to think. Like, actually, looking back to it, I started like making films where in 2012, and I never uploaded them to YouTube or anything, but I used to just like uh, it was when I got this like camera, that I and it will I just when I discovered that you could record audio as well as video, like I was really like inspired to try and like make something. And I used to film like like action figures and that kind of thing, and just like move them around with my hand, um, and just sort of film it. So basically, just filming myself playing around, and um, yeah, I guess it was just something that I just wanted to do. It's hard to really explain, but like I guess I just kind of it was kind of something that I kind of wanted to do. I guess to sort of like I was sort of bored, I suppose. But over time, I kind of try. I think it was in 2014 I started to try and experiment with stop motion, and um, over that kind of period of time, I started becoming more kind of like passionate about it, I suppose. And um, it was something that I kind of didn't really, I never kind of imagined that it would sort of continue as long as it did. But I think the more I continued, and then I started like uploading them to YouTube, I became more like passionate about it. And it became something that I wanted to dedicate more and more time to. And I think as well, like I just love the idea of being able to kind of just have something that sort of I created, and something that I've always kind of been obsessed with is the idea of wanting to leave your footprints. Like you want to have like a legacy. You want sort of people to there's something for people to remember you by, in like years to come, type thing. And you've got like, yeah, I don't know, sort of you're kind of keeping those footprints. You've got like these sort of things you're leaving people. um, and it's kind of a part of you. You know, you're kind of like uh, sharing. Um, and I guess as well, I kind of in terms of inspiration, like I guess uh, I always like sort of Aardman, you know, like Wallace and Gromit and that kind of thing. So that's kind of how I discovered that stop motion. I just kind of thought it was a cool idea, and I guess that's kind of what got me to doing stop motion, like specifically. Yeah, because that actually was quite a long answer.
No, you're okay. That's really interesting, actually. Yeah, like the wanting to leave an impact on people, like to remember you after like after your life because of like through art. I think that's cool because it is like sometimes I do forget that brick filming is like a form of art, and because it's Lego, but then like when people pull certain brick films off, it reminds me then that that's kind of why I'm doing it myself as well. Like the expression, self expression, and spreading like your vision through Lego figures, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's kind of like I think I've said this before, like in the past, but like I think it's kind of like this whole idea of you can make something look really good with like pretty much no money, um, with like Lego specifically, you know, in stop motion, and you know you don't really have that kind of advantage with anything else really. With like animation, the other forms of animation, you've got like software and that takes a long time. But with like I don't know when you've got when it's like Lego, it's toys, you know, it's stuff that you've kind of like already had. So it's kind of like going into it, you kind of it's also I guess almost like an extension of your childhood as well, because I think a lot of people start when they're like 12 or 13 and they're sort of getting a bit too old to kind of like just sort of like still play around with toys, but they've still got those toys, so it's kind of like trying to find a way of you know, giving them some use before you end up just like selling them, you know. um and yeah, I think as well it's kind of like you were sort of saying then, it's like um I think that people go into it uh just I think it's the same with like any like films or whatever. Like at first, it's just kind of a bit of fun, and that's what draws you into it. But then the more you kind of stick to it, the more you kind of it sort of becomes, I guess, like an art.
Yeah, definitely. Because once you like the fun of it for me in the beginning was like a whole like world almost that didn't even know it, that I didn't even know like existed until I came across different brick films and stuff and realized I could do it myself. But once I like got the into the kind of rhythm, I suppose, of like easing in and out and things, it made it a lot easier to just focus on like thinking about what I want the brick films to say.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel that as well. Like uh, it's kind of funny looking back, you know, like my films and stuff, and um, you know, at first it's kind of you know, you kind of again, I think it gets to a point where you're kind of no longer just sort of playing, you know, and you kind of it becomes uh, something you dedicate a lot of time to, and you know, you kind of you're always trying to grow and uh, I guess you know, sort of tell these stories and whatever. And I think it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of mad. Like I feel like you know, comparing it to like live action, because I study film at university, and um, I do struggle when we're like doing these like live action films because everything has to be such kind of like so sort of low scale, if that makes sense. Like there's so much with brick filming you sort of take for granted when you can pretty much do anything. You're creating this whole world and there's no kind of like uh sort of worry about like if there's going to be some explosion, if there's going to be, whatever. It's like it's not going to cost you uh a ridiculous amount of money. It's just gonna, it just takes a bit more time. Whereas like with live action, you can't, every single thing, just going to a location, hiring an actor, everything comes at a price. And so I think having that experience of working on in live action as well, it's only made me feel more kind of appreciate brick filming even more, because it's just like you can, yeah, you can just do so much.
Yeah, and it's yeah. I was saying before how like um, yeah, it's like you're saying you can do pretty much whatever you want with the Lego figures. Yeah, which is also why I was saying in a previous episode, like there'll be a lot more brick films being made more frequently lately because of COVID and stuff. So there'll be more. Yeah, there'll be more. There'll be less live action films coming out from people and more brick films from the people that would do a bit of both. And it's kind of cool to see like the difference in style when people are doing live action and when people are doing brick films.
Yeah, and that's kind of a funny thing as well. The whole thing of like how 2020 has been uh like a chance for so many of us to actually make brick films, and it's completely the opposite to like Hollywood and the film industry in general. Like everything else is being pushed back because they literally can't make these films, and yet we're doing the exact opposite because we are just stuck at home. We can make these films. It's a very funny kind of like uh you know sort of complete sort of opposite sides of some, like of a spectrum, isn't it? Like it is funny.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see like more so of what you can see more of people's like filmmaking styles in their brick films than you would in like live action if they're more like if they're starting out in brick films and if they're starting out at live action at the same time. Like the brick films would probably be a bit higher in quality in terms of like them uh, like showing exactly what they have in their head and like matching it up.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. And I think, um, and not to kind of like downplay how great like working with a group can be, I do think that as brick filmers, we are kind of like so used to working by ourselves and not like having like a group of people kind of like get in the way of like, I guess, our creative process. If that makes sense. Like I feel like when you're used to being the director, the cinematographer, like everything, um, going into a group where you're just one of those things, it's quite weird. It's a weird contrast, and it's not something that I think a lot of us are used to. Um, and I do, in general, when it comes to like the creative process, I do definitely prefer working by myself. I think, but also as well, having some input is also nice. But in general, I think we do kind of like to be the main kind of creative force behind, like behind our films.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Um yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I'm writing a live action thing at the moment, so it should be interesting to see the difference when like you're saying collaborating with other people for a live action thing and like my own brick films and things. Um so yeah, that I totally get that. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, as well, like I'm not trying to say like that, like working with like a team of people is bad or anything. I think it's kind of, I don't know. I think it's very kind of like dependent on each, is a case by case thing, and obviously it's different between each like individual. I can also imagine as well if you're going the opposite end where you're so used to being with a group, suddenly having to do something by yourself, probably would also be hard. You know, it's kind of what you're used to as well. But it is definitely a different like experience, and it's quite it is something that's kind of worth sort of exploring. I think going into working with a group of people and seeing how you kind of like get through that as well. You know.
Yeah, like when it's like brick films, you'd just be like in a dark room by yourself for hours on end. Um, so then, yeah, I was just thinking there, like, if you're working with other like animators on an animation project, like in the same room, it might be different to like working with live action, because then you can both kind of do all the different things like yourself, but also be collaborative at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, I think as well. It's kind of like I think one of the things as well is when you if you go into like working with groups of people and that kind of stuff, you kind of learn to kind of you learn what kind of aspect of film you like the most. For me personally, it's the cinematography and the editing. Um, and I think once you kind of learn that, it becomes easier to work in a group because you have your specific thing, and you just kind of learn, I guess, more about what that specific role means within like the whole process. Um, and obviously that's something if going ahead with it, but you know, like beforehand, if you don't necessarily know what specialism you enjoy the most, uh, it's a lot of it takes a bit of sort of self discovery and kind of trying to work out like what you want to do, you know.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that end of it. Like, yeah, um, yeah, that would also go back to, I'd say, like, because someone would be working by themselves, they wouldn't really like know what it's like to be doing different, like doing just one thing and then like collaborating, like we were saying. Um, so yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and I think as well, so it does affect like how you see your brick films, and I think it kind of you know you kind of realize yeah what you like the most, but you also kind of start to realize what aspects you really don't like doing the most. Like so, firstly for me, I'm not a big fan of like everything to do with sound. I appreciate like it's so important, like the sound design and everything, and that's partly why I'm on episode 6 is taking such a long time to edit because I'm trying to like get the sound right. But it's kind of one of those sort of things I wouldn't even have thought about beforehand. But like now that I know that's not like a specialism that I particularly enjoy, when I'm doing it in my own films, I kind of think, oh yeah, this is the bit that sort of drags.
Yeah, I definitely noticed like there are some things already that I kind of dislike, like but that's only because of like yeah, that would be from lack of experience on my end, I'd say. Like for lighting especially, it's really annoying because I only have one light and I don't really know much about it, so yeah, it can be frustrating at times.
But one of the most useful like tutorials I ever saw on specifically about lighting for brick films was Speak Broccoli's video. And he because he did a video, I think it was like a couple of years ago now. It may have been last year, I can't remember, but he did a really good video about you know how to kind of light sets and stuff. And um, once you kind of get the idea of how to kind of light the set, it makes such a difference. And yeah, like having like tutorials like that really help.
Yeah. I remember seeing that video a little while ago. Actually, yeah, it was pretty helpful to see that, because then I realized like, oh, I'm not supposed to like shine the lamp directly onto the figures. Like I'd bounce it off a wall or something.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, it was really interesting.
yeah. I mean that's the thing as well. Like one of the challenges with brick filming when it comes to lighting is that Lego is so shiny. So when you're shining lights on them, it's very like overexposed. It's very bright. Um, and one of the things I find is I get a small piece of tissue paper and I put them over the lamps, and it diffuses the light so that it's softer. That helps a lot as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely try that for my next video. But
Mm.
yeah, it's like you're saying, like the soft light would probably be best because when it is harsh light, it does reflect off them. But moving on to the next topic again. What was the most complicated shot that you would have had to film for a brick film?
Oh, that's a good question actually. I feel like a lot of cut and one was very difficult to do because I was filming that sort of a lot of that film was like non-base plate animation, and it was like these two cars racing around the house. And one of the challenges with that was I was sometimes using natural light. um, there was a scene right near the end when actually, have you seen the film? I don't know if it's hard to kind of describe if you haven't seen it.
I haven't. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. But well, basically, I'll try and sort of like describe it. You got these sort of two characters who are kind of like they start becoming sort of self-aware, and they kind of try and escape the Lego set, they're the set of the film, and they're kind of racing around my house. And there's one scene where he's like flying towards the door trying to escape, and that particular scene I had to use just natural light. And I remember I had to there's a scene when he's kind of like sort of running around the door handle, and I had to just use like tack, um, and that was really hard. And also as well, because of use of natural light, I had to film it as a specific time of day, and it was like I had to get up like early in the morning when the sun wasn't like in that direction. Um, so that was a quite tricky because it was partly a time thing, but also like animating sort of non-conventionally. I'm trying to think what else would have been really difficult. Um, I would say that a lot of episode 5 and 6 of Ant-Man was quite difficult because I was trying to do a lot of things that I hadn't done before. So the opening sequence of Ant-Man episode 5 was by far the hardest thing I'd ever done at that point, and uh, I uh, I was trying to kind of like make up for the kind of lack of like good fight sequences in the previous Ant-Man films. I did feel like it was. I still very much enjoy the previous episodes of Ant-Man, but like I think one of the biggest like drawbacks for me, looking back to it, is the like fight sequences. So trying to kind of do something a bit more uh, kind of interesting with the fight sequences, I actually followed Mind Games film, The Profession, like frame by frame, studying it to try and get like good kind of like sort of fight animation. Um, that was really hard, and also I get through like because the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm sort of thinking back to like things that are really difficult. And I think actually the hardest thing I've ever filmed would have been I did a video. It was a commissioned film actually, of like an this army training in Lego. It's actually one of my most viewed brick films, and it's these 20 minifigures marching like in time with each other, and just having to animate 20 figures per per frame is just a nightmare. It took a very long time to just do like each frame of animation. and I had to do stuff like camera moves that I'd never done before, like where I was sort of like they were turning around all at once, and I had to move the camera at the same time, and yeah, it was just that was in general quite a nightmare to animate. I think that's like the three main like most difficult things to animate.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'd say the army one was really difficult though, because like with all the different people to keep track of, and also to keep their movements the same, must have been really tedious.
Yeah, yeah, it was quite. Yeah, and it's funny. I when I was going into it, I had no idea like just how I was going to do it, and yeah, it was just it was I had to do it at a by a specific time because I was saying before it was a commissioned film, and I it was kind of a going by a deadline. It was quite sort of nerve wracking a lot of the time because I was kind of thinking to myself, I have to get this done by X date, and like trying to do as much as I could each day was quite. It was quite a challenge.
Cool. So have you haven't have you had any other commissioned brick films before?
um, that was like the only like paid one I've done. I did also do a commissioned film prior to that. So basically, um, I work at a museum, and I did a video, 2017, a welcome video, that's actually sort of shown in the museum. And the army training one was like the second film that I did for them, uh, which they actually paid. That was actually a paid commission because they liked the previous one. They kind of thought, oh yeah, we'll do another one. Uh, and yeah, I think that's the only like paid like brick film I've done. I've done a couple of like commissioned live action projects as well. I recently did a documentary about a Japanese flag um, for the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. So that was really interesting as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's also like difficult to for brick filming, especially like it's a very niche thing to like be good at. So it's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to find like people that would pay to like advertise, like if they need it in an ad or something. Like it's rare to find people that would have like Lego stop motion in mind.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. I think I don't actually know like exactly what the kind of like legal kind of like sort of situation you'd have to have if you're kind of like regularly, making commissioned films with Lego. Like what the if it was not actually for the Lego group, like what their kind of like rules would be. Um, but yeah, I feel like I mean my kind of goal is to once I've left uni is to try and kind of build up like a video production kind of company where I sort of do advertising. But I don't really see a future in doing like regularly making brick films for like paid projects because um, it is just a bit too much of a niche, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, yeah, it is cool to see though. Like when people would um go on to do different things that started out from like brick filming, like a career in animation or filmmaking or something, because like they would have like carried the skills from like brick filming since, like you were saying, like 12 or 13, onto like their career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just kind of funny how you never you kind of you never know where that's going to sort of like lead. You know, one day you're kind of just, you know, you're you're a kid and you're kind of like, you know, you're doing some stop motion for a bit of fun, and then, you know, one day that can lead to being the sort of the job you are kind of sort of striving to get to, you know, like professionally and stuff. It's yeah, it's just kind of mad where it kind of leads some people, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty crazy. But yeah, so you're saying there that you wouldn't like want to go into like brick filming as a future career or anything. But how long do you think you'd keep going before you'd move on to the next thing that you'd be doing?
Do you mean like just like brick filming in general?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I feel like brick filming is always going to be something that I want to do. Um, Again, it's not probably not going to be something that I do as regularly in the future. If you know, just because of like, I guess, life and stuff in general. But yeah, I feel like brick filming is like, it's always I feel like I'd always want to stay within the community, and probably still make brick films, just probably not as regularly. I mean, you think of people like Mind Game, like he's obviously not making brick films to the same kind of consistency as he was like 10 years ago, but he's still, you know, active and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's also like the thing we were saying earlier about how it's lately become more of a community than it was a few years ago, just because of like podcasts and voice acting and people's projects and things.
Hmm. Yeah, I think like for a while, um, I kind of felt like personally, like I wasn't getting a lot out of brick filming around like late 2017, early 2018, that kind of period, and kind of felt like there was something that kind of I wanted to fill a void. I think I said that before on the LP podcast, and it was kind of like, you know, I wanted to kind of do something that I guess to be a bit more active in the community again, and just sort of just do something that kind of uh, yeah, just kind of just felt like I wanted to fill that void personally for me, but also just like within the community. And I feel like in general, there's just more to do now within the brick filming community. Um, I don't know if you're into it, like if you've been around with like the discords, because there's quite a big community there now. I feel like on Discord, and I feel like a lot of people sort of are part of like all different types, you know, all different servers and stuff. And in general, I feel like the community is sort of like a nicer place to be in than it was like a few years ago.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've found myself that like a big part of the community like is can be found through Discord. Because there would even be a lot of people on there that like wouldn't post any videos on YouTube, but would still make brick films and talk about their videos and things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, I feel like one of the reasons why I like doing the podcast as well is because I feel like with in a lot of ways, being a brick filmer is not just like the brick filming and how many brick films you make regularly. I feel like you still want to be considered part of the community, even if you don't make as many brick films as like everyone else, you know. I think even like some people um, might not even make like hardly any brick films, and they should still be considered like active if they're like, you know, hanging out with the community and sort of actively, you know, interacting with people and stuff. Like I don't know, I think brick filming is so much more than just the brick films, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was talking to Mind Game Studios on a different episode, and he was saying brick filming is the friends that he made along the way of like his career.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like, I do kind of think of, yeah, a lot of people in the community are kind of like friends for life, you know. And it's kind of and it's really kind of weird because it's like all these friends that most of us have not seen each other, but like we all consider ourselves like friends. Like, and I guess that's not really that uncommon nowadays, the internet. But like, you really do feel like you kind of know each other.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's because like it is such a niche thing that like there is so much that goes into brick filming that if you come across another brick filmer, like there's so much that you can talk about because there's like, yeah, it's such a niche, and like there is so much that you can say.
Hmm. I think as well. Oh, sorry, by the way. I've been I've been eating sweets because my blood sugar level is quite low, and I'm a diabetic, so I sometimes just I have to have like sweet things. So I was struggling to talk then for a second because I was trying to eat sweets. um,
That's okay.
yeah, but what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was just going to say, um, I do think that for me personally, like with having the community uh, during this pandemic has been really good because for a lot of people, uh, you know, a big part of what they enjoy doing is not online. And the fact that pretty much everything that we do within involving brick filming is done online, it does mean that things have been able to kind of survive and also kind of thrive, as I was saying before with the pandemic. But um, without having like the brick filming kind of community to just be involved in, I can't imagine how long this past like year would have felt.
Yeah, definitely. Like to like you're saying, it is all online, so like it pretty much stayed the same. Yeah, if not like became more of a frequently talked about thing because of people like Edbound and stuff becoming more and more popular on YouTube and things. So then more people would find it accessible during COVID, and get talking to each other about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think as well, like one of the things I've been really I really enjoyed over the past like few weeks was Edbound's Twitch streams. I don't know if you tuned into them, but they were a lot of fun as well. Um, that's something that I'm probably going to try and get into at some point. I've never been able to work out OBS that well, so I'm going to have to try and try and get used to that. But in the future, I definitely would like to do some Twitch streams whilst I animate because that sounds like it'd be quite a lot of fun, and it'd be another way to kind of like get people to interact with each other, within the community and stuff, which is always fun.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I've tried it myself a couple of times, and it's really interesting to um get to like have the people to talk to while doing it that also like get uh what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. One of the things that I always find really funny is that like I'm not very technically minded. Like I know a lot. Obviously, I know a lot about like brick filming, and I know about like editing software and being able to do the podcast and stuff. But like in general, I'm not very competent when it comes to like learning new software, and it takes me a long time to kind of like get used to it. So there's a lot of stuff like streaming that I find really hard to kind of like work out. And I remember one of the things I used to really like about Hangouts on Air when Google Hangouts was connected to YouTube. You didn't have to have like any real technical skill to kind of like run it. And when they disconnected that and they no longer had the Hangouts on Air, it really upset me because it was just like that was the easiest way to stream, and now they've taken that away from us. That was a sad day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely a very difficult thing to keep doing because of like to keep going with it because like you'd be focusing on like what you're doing, but also trying to like sound more excited about things than normal because like there's always that like thing of like uh, oh I don't really want people to like click away in the middle of this because I'm too boring or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. You constantly feel like you have to interact with people, and uh, yeah, I kind of could imagine I wouldn't want to do it all the time if I was animating. Like uh, one of the things I do kind of like about uh, animating is sometimes you can kind of just sort of sit. You kind of just like by yourself. Sometimes, like if you're, I don't know, that sounds quite funny, but I guess like if you're constantly talking, interacting with people, it can get a bit kind of like tiring. I guess I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah. um yeah, it is definitely a taxing thing to do if you're doing it a lot. Yeah, but it is fun in its own kind of way. Like it adds another layer to the like excitement of brick filming and like the thing I was saying earlier about like extra motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next thing. What would be your like what would be the your favorite brick film that you've made?
I guess it would be kind of the, the cliche to sort of say the thing you're about to release, because obviously I'm just gonna try and like sort of push the hype. I would say that Ant-Man Episode 6 is like one of the best films I've done. I think in a lot of ways. Personally, for me, I'd say my favorite. Ooh, I'm trying to think. There's a I feel there's like a few that kind of tie. Cut and Run would definitely be one of the ones I enjoy watching the most. Like, I feel like I had a lot of fun overall making that, and yeah, I just think it was kind of a fun thing to do. And I'd say I also really liked uh, my Brawl 2019 entry, Orchestral Palette. Uh, that again, yes, that would probably be one of my favorite ones as well. I mean, and also Loop TV. I'm really just in general. I was like really happy with the response I got from that, and I really, yeah, I try not to. I don't want to sound kind of like I hate kind of like talking about myself in this way, but because I'm not like a big headed person at all, but I'm really like happy with like uh, how that came out. Like I really kind of like that film, Loop TV.
Yeah, because it's also like if you're not happy with your own projects, then there's not really any point to keep them up. Uh, yeah, so it is good that you're still like even after I think 5 years of doing it that like
Yeah,
you'd still be interested in it.
yeah, and I do kind of feel like you know, it's funny when every time you kind of like you step up on like one aspect, and this is kind of like one of the things I've always kind of been uh always had on my mind each time I make a brick film is like I always try and think what is the specific aspect, generally in terms of animation, that I kind of improve. Um, and each time I'm trying to kind of like get better at that specific thing. And I think that with a lot of my films, I remember in 2016 when I got the my C920 webcam, and it was the first time I had filmed in HD. And I remember thinking, "Wow, this is such a step up, and it looks so good now," kind of thing. And then in 2017, I kind of just like improved a lot, and I was like, "Oh yeah, actually, this is so much better than like what I did in 2016." And then and each year I kind of feel like I'm getting better at like specific things, and there's always something else that I kind of feel like I got better at, kind of thing. Um, and I mean, I always kind of find that kind of fun to look back at. Like even like my early stuff, I'm not. I used to. I remember, like in the early years when I looked back at my first things, I'd always kind of look back at them kind of like bitterly. I kind of think, oh, this was not very good. But now looking back at them, um, it's all part of like your history, and I even enjoy watching like my, you know, like sort of not as good brick films, because it's part of like what led me to here.
Yeah, definitely. Like I when like I think it was December or November, around the time Kappa was like coming into YouTube. I decided to like take down all my old videos, but I like screen recorded them, so I'd still have them somewhere. And then I just thought, like after kept uploading after that, and nothing really came from Kappa, I like put them all in a big video and re-released them. Just because I think it's a cool thing to like see even myself how uh, much I'm improving in however many years or yeah.
Hmm. And it's funny because when you like each time you kind of like improve, you can't really see it when you're actually like making the films, but like once you've improved beyond that, you do notice it then in the earlier films, like, oh yeah, like I can see now like what I'm doing now is better than that, whatever. um but yeah, it's just, I think it's really fun, you get to see like your kind of evolution, as a brick filmer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's like my favorite thing about it is just improving. And like I spent, I think it was 5 months, which is like the longest amount of time I spent on like any brick film, on a brick film that I put out back in May, I think. And then recently I spent like 2 weeks on a Batman video, and I actually ended up liking the Batman video more because I used the like skills that I improved upon over the 5 months on the other video to and applied them to the Batman video. So I was able to improve. The video looked a lot better than the other video, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's always kind of funny when you've worked on a big project, and you kind of think to yourself like, this has to be like the best thing I've ever done, kind of thing. And then you make stuff after that, or even in between that, and it's technically better than the you know the big thing. It's just kind of funny
Yeah, definitely.
because I think like once you've done something like really difficult, um, and I've had this in the past. Like I've done like a specific film for a contest or whatever, and I'll do like a shot or a sequence which is going to be really difficult. Um, that kind of stays with you, and I think that next time you try and do something difficult like that, you don't find it nearly as hard, and you just end up improving like as an animator from that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like if you want to plan out like a similar shot to like, or movement to what you've done before, then you can just like take what you've learned and then apply it to the next thing, which is also why I think like the Batman video was a lot better than the other video. But it was also probably because of the like writing in it. I think I've improved like when it comes to like dialogue because when I started writing dialogue for my other video, I had never like added dialogue to brick film before, so the dialogue wasn't very good until like I had someone read over it and then help me improve it. But what was that like for writing your own videos?
Well, that is interesting actually, because like one of the very first like proper brick film that I made, um, uh, it was like this really, actually really complicated plot. It's like this fantasy film where an ancient Egyptian mummy comes to life, and he goes to a different dimension that's a fantasy kingdom and becomes the king, and it's a very complicated story. And as is common with like fantasy stuff, it's like there's so much like exposition, just like explaining things like the entire time. And I didn't even also I wasn't really aware of that in the part in like at the time, but looking back at the script now, it's just like the entire thing is just people trying to explain the plot because it's just so complicated. And um like, you know, I can definitely see like over time I kind of improved, but I didn't really kind of understand like how to write a script. You just kind of, I think that's kind of, it's always going to be a bit, I think your first script's always going to be a bit weird, you know, because it's much harder than just sort of like coming up with a story, trying to make something sound convincing and whatever. Um, but yeah, it's funny, like, I mean, this script now for I'm in episode 6, because originally episode 5 and 6 were going to be just one long episode, um, until I realized how long it was going to be, and then I split it. But I know that a lot of the script was written back in late 2017, um, and overall, we're still really happy with the script, and I've made some changes over time, but I do kind of feel like uh, moving forward when I start writing the script for the next episode that um, there's probably I feel like there's probably a lot that I would have learned since writing that, and that's going to be something that I'm interested to see how I'm going to feel writing a script from scratch again, because uh, I think the longest script I've written in the last 3 years is probably Loop TV. I think in general, I think I've improved quite a lot.
Yeah, but yeah, that's really interesting to see. Like, there's also like aspects that I of improving that I wouldn't have even like noticed until talking about them now, like dialogue and things. But
Hmm.
it's also like when I'm even like for a live action thing, when I'm going to write the script, like I'm picturing more of the visuals in my head, and like because of like brick filming, because it's a lot of it is focused around the animation and the visuals. So I'd focus more when writing a script on um, the visuals on for other things I've found.
Hmm. Yeah.
So what's your favorite like genre of storytelling?
Well, I've always kind of been a fan of like, I guess, action and sort of like sort of spy movie type things. Like I'm a big fan of things like Mission Impossible and stuff, and I guess uh like it's one of the aspects I really like about The Incredibles, particularly the first one, uh, is not only that it's like a superhero film, but also it's kind of got that kind of almost sort of like Mission Impossible Bond esque kind of aesthetic and sort of feel to it, which is something I've always really liked. Um, so I think I've always enjoyed that kind of thing. Um, I used to really like fantasy, but I've kind of gone away from that in recent years because I kind of I think it's mostly because of writing my own scripts. I started to become just how aware of just how like hard it is to write a fantasy script that's good. um, so I kind of just lost a passion for fantasy. But yeah, I do really like action type based films, and also like sort of I guess sort of uh I like comedies as well. I For a long time I convinced myself that I couldn't write a comedy script, but I've been trying to do some more kind of comedic Brit films recently, and I feel like it really worked with Loop TV. I think that's probably my funniest film. Um, so that is probably something I'm going to try and do more in the future as well. Is try and do sort of like comedies as well. Um, so yeah, I'd say like action and comedies and that kind of thing are probably my favorite genres to do.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I've realized myself when writing a comedy, like interpreting jokes even into a script. Um, I have to like keep telling myself like comedy is subjective. So if someone like isn't gonna like laugh at the joke when I ask them to like read over it or something, it's like just not their style, I guess. But well, there would also be like some things to take away, like the timing could be better or something. But overall, that's kind of the thing that I've had to come to realize.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's yeah, I don't know. The whole idea of trying to write a comedy, like at first it kind of just feels a bit kind of like scary, just the amount. Like I don't know, because I feel like I've always felt that in general I'm much better off script than I am on script, as just in general when it comes to like talking and talking like in front of the camera or like on a podcast or whatever. Like in general, if I try and go off a script, you can always tell because I'm just like terrible with it and I never know what to say. But then not having a script, somehow it works. I don't know. And I feel that way with comedy as well. Like I feel like some people can sort of be funny, but when it comes to actually writing something, they're not. Uh, and that's kind of how I feel a bit. I feel like I can be funny, but trying to write a script, um, yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know how people do stand up. Just like I don't know, it's a skill that I couldn't imagine doing myself.
Yeah, I'd be the same. Yeah, like the only time I'd make people laugh would be like just on the spot, which is
Yeah,
rare as well. uh, but yeah, I think that's a good question to, or a good answer to wrap it up on, wrap things up on. But is there anything else that you'd want to talk about before ending the podcast?
um, hmm. Well, yeah, I guess look forward to seeing Atman episode 6. Yeah, coming soon. I guess to a YouTube channel near you.
Oh, I'll leave the link to your channel in the description so people can check it out
Awesome. Yeah.
there.
Well, yeah. I mean, also, yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've always, I always love just having a chance to chat with people, and especially about brick filming and that kind of stuff. It's yeah, it's always fun. I'm always happy to have the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on in the first place.
Yeah, no worries.
Hello again. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Nothing But Bricks podcast. Once again, check out LOTW Studios' channel. Link will be in the description. Check out my brother's Instagram as well. That'll be linked in the description. And that's it for this week. Like if you enjoyed, share it with your friends that might like it if you want to. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.